Okay, so I guess I'm on the show. So it's always interesting to be on this side of the camera and don't see anybody else. But I hope you teams are having a great time. I know Merchant, Liada, and the entire team are putting an amazing weekend together, and I hope that your ideas, projects are progressing. So tonight we're going to be talking a bit about pitching, and I'm going to try to divide the pitching mostly in two parts. One is about the orientation and your attitude towards pitching. The second one is how to make a good 3-minute speech. I actually don't know if you guys are going to do 30 seconds, 90 seconds, but I will talk about the difference in different pitching. But first of all, I'm probably, some of you know me, the team for sure knows me. So I'm Cristobal Alonso. I'm the CEO, I'm el patron of Startup Wise Guys, which is today the largest accelerator in Europe in terms of investments made, with more than 200 investments on our route to become one of the top 3 brands in the world. Was just reviewing with my team. So we have right now the top 2 accelerator in terms of online batches with Startup School in Y Combinator. And passionate about Turkey. We have invested in 8 Turkish startups in the last 18 months. I spent a lot of time in Turkey. I was in a panel with the MD of Revo Capital and one of the best fintech CEOs. So always around Turkey. So super happy to be here. I am going to now talk about this is my team, which is what I'm the most proud of, is how we're building together huge things and amazing things and very impacting things at Wise Guys. And hopefully most of you take note that 70% of the team is female. So we love diversity, but we understand diversity as many things, not just gender, but gender, nationalities, age, points of view, and stages in life. And the funny part is that when you look at back, everything looks that things are an overnight success, but things are the matter of timing, perseverance, and lots of trying. And pitching is nothing different. Pitching is a matter of practicing, right? So the better pitch you want to make, the more you need to practice. So there is no secret, but there is at least some directions that you might take. I think I have talked about me a lot, but one thing I can tell you is I pitch a lot. So even if I'm coaching many people constantly on pitching, I pitch myself constantly. I do keynotes. I pitch the company to investors, to our own investors. I pitch your startups to other investors. I do about 20 to 25 workshops on pitching every year. So I try to keep myself constantly also up to date. And in fact, when you go to see the presentation, many things have changed. You will have heard it 12 months ago. The question is, why are you pitching, right? And I want to take the why are you pitching from the point of view about the why from the point of view of personal, right? So in a way, it's not even why you're pitching, but why are you doing this, right? And how to include the why as the main driver on any story. And if this works well, I will listen for about 90 seconds. I will stop it after 90 seconds to a video that to me is almost 10 years old. Actually, it's more than 10 years old by now. By now, it's very famous. It's part of the book Start With Why, but I think it simplifies very well the message about the why is so important to talk about the why of you doing your own startup, and especially as many of you are trying to have an impact. So let's listen it for a couple of minutes. I will cut it short almost at the end. And I hope the sound is coming well. It's coming in my ears at least very well. So people don't buy what you do. People buy why you do things. And this is not just about buying from a product point of view, but people you want to hire, people you want to support you. You need to transmit your passion, your purpose, right? This is the one thing that makes you dramatically different from large organizations. The passion that you have, the purpose that you have is usually much bigger, much more energetic than anything else they have. This is the one thing that is different, right? And somehow most of you want to pitch your product, why you do it, instead of telling you why are you doing this startup, right? So this is a fundamental. So every time you pitch, make sure that at some point in the pitch, you're telling us, why are you doing this? Don't spend all the time telling us, what are you going to do? How are you going to do it? But tell us, why are you going to do this? Okay? So this is the first fundamental part. The second part is know your audience. So you need to understand who are you pitching, right? So you're pitching a university to get recruits from among your colleagues. It's very different that you're pitching instead of in a room full of seasonal investors from venture capitals, which is also different if you're pitching in a room full of angel investors, which is also different if you're pitching a conference in which you don't know who the hell is there. And by understanding that those are different, you need to pitch in a different way, even if your core message might be very similar, right? So it's fundamental to understand who are you pitching in front of today, right? Typical, as I said, three audiences is investors, customers, management, or employees, right? Both future and potential. And the rest of the presentation is very much oriented towards pitching to investors. So keep that in mind. Some of the messages might be different, but I think it allows you to focus on this idea. So the first thing is, what is this pitch? Hopefully most of you understand what, but what is a pitch? Why are you guys talking about this pitch? What is a pitch? And what are the type of pitching, right? So I kind of talk about three type of pitching, and I will actually afterwards get about what do you do it for. But the first one is what we call the elevator pitch. I will say this answer typical question: what do you do? What does your company do, right? You call it an elevator because you might actually run into this guy, onto this lady that you, for years, months, you wanted to talk and explain what you do, and suddenly you run into her into an elevator, and you have 10 floors to explain what do you do and get them interested, right? So there is no slides. It's also the party opener. You meet in a party, in a networking event, and they ask you, what do you do? Right? And we're going to work about it a little bit. The second part is the classic, right? The 3-minute speech on a stage with certain slides. 3 minutes, some places they give you 7 minutes, some places they give you 2 minutes. The idea and the format is very similar. We can work, and I can give you some differences. And the third one is the one that we do it with customers and with partners. We actually get into a room. We have the opportunity to probably explain what we do, put a product demo. So this could be a 10 minutes, a 20 minutes, a 30 minutes. I like to work on the structures of 20 minutes. And then you can always make them shorter or longer, depending if there is more engagement, more time, you can speed up. But it's easy to work on at 20 minutes more. Today, I'm going to talk, most of you, about 3 minutes. I believe tomorrow, many of you, or all of you, are going to be pitching. And I like to come tell me afterwards if you guys are doing 3 minutes or 5. And I'm happy. As I'm going to do an exercise before I go forward, I will try to get from later what is the timing you have tomorrow. Depending on that, I can give you some extra tips if it's not 3 minutes, if it's less or more. As I said, we're going to focus on doing it for investors. So what is the goal of pitching? So if we were actually in person or in Zoom and I will see your faces, I will be telling you to raise your hand. I mean, what are we pitching? We are only pitching for one thing: to have a coffee afterwards, in a way. So when you try to tell your whole story, your whole life, your whole company in 3 minutes. It's impossible, right? So you just need to understand that I just need to get their interest to meet me afterwards at the end for a longer conversation where I can explain things with more time. So in a way, you only want interest. You want people to like you and to want to listen more to your story. That's your only goal. Keep it in mind all the time when we ask you simplify things, do things slowly, and you always want to answer, but I don't have time. You have time because the only thing you need to get is interest. And 3 things or 5 things that to me every pitch or an excellent pitch should have. It should be exciting, right? It captivates attention. It is something compelling when we look at it. It is clear. So we know what you do. It's simple. I don't need a PhD. I don't need to understand 1900 abbreviations. I don't need to be for that industry. It's just clear. It's also informative. So you're talking, I always give the example about these guys from Finland who used to pitch a company that was doing measurements of tree heights, right? First, I couldn't care less about it. Secondly, I have no idea about that industry. But after those 3 minutes, I actually thought I learned something. It was informative. The guys knew what they were talking about, right? It is memorable. There are 10 people pitching, 20 people pitching, and when they finish, they remember you, who you are, and what you do, right? And it's actionable. There is a reason why you want to meet me or somebody in the audience after the pitch, because you're asking for something very clear, right? So in a way, when you're talking to colleagues, when you're even getting your classmates or your startup colleagues to tell you, hey, how did it go? Try to tell them, was it exciting, 1 to 5? Wasn't clear, 1 to 5? Did you get informed, 1 to 5? Was it memorable? What you remember? Was it actionable? Do you know what I'm asking for, right? So these are the 5 things that make a pitch great, make a pitch powerful. So we're going to start with a very, very small exercise. I don't know how easy it's for you guys, but at least I want you to take some time to do it. And then I will give you about 5-10 minutes and I come back to this one, right? I'm going to continue explaining because I want you to be a bit interactive, even if the medium is not perfect. So the question is like, who are you? Who should I listen to? Why should I be listening to you? And the context that I want this to is like, imagine many times we go to a pitch, the slides are not working yet, there is some technical. So what many people do is they actually spend 10 minutes. They spend 10 minutes. Oh, la 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 la. No. So if you have an extra minute, why don't you start telling people who are you? And why should they be listening to you? So I want you to spend right now about 5 minutes defining in less than 30 seconds who are you. And I give you an example. It's 24 seconds. If I speak very fast, could be 20, very slow, 30. So this is my intro that I have practiced in 24 seconds. And I will explain you why it's important. So my name is Cristobal Alonso. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been working for more than 20 years, both as a CXO, and I have 2 Series A startups. More importantly, in the last 4 years, I'm being the CEO, El Patron of Wise Guys. We have grown the company 3x since 2016, bringing it to top 10 worldwide accelerator. And I have coached more than 500 startups like you. So I don't want to I'm 20 years, but probably 20 years more experience about you. I'm grandpa in front of you, right? I could be talking about for 1 year about my experience, right? But you will not remember. I want you to remember, what do I do? And one achievement that is 1 or 2 maximum achievements, in this case, was my growth in the last 4 years and who we are and how many people I have coached. So for my audience, which is you think, oh, I would like to listen to this person. So I want you now to take 5 minutes max and write down and practice at least one in front of somebody in the room with you, or if not, in front of your mirror, right? Who are you? 2 achievements. Why should we be listening to you? Okay, so practice, write it down. By the way, I volunteer to read any of those over email tonight and give you some corrections. Okay, so I'll give you 5 minutes. I'm putting my clock right now for 5 minutes, which yes, I'm going to wisely use that time to get my pizza out of the oven and eat while I continue listening to you guys, and also make sure that my kid is not killing himself. So 5 minutes start now. Yeah. Second. Okay, so 5 minutes gone. As I said, hopefully practice this, because there's so many times you're going to have to intro yourself. And I have seen so many people who are just talking about, hey, I'm this, I'm being graduated from this, I'm a student, I'm from this city, blah, blah, blah. No, so get something crystal speed that you can use all the time, and you can just change due to the audience. So now let's go back to that one. Elias told me that you didn't hear the video. So I am going to be showing one video afterwards of a pitch. So I will go back to the broadcasting to make sure that you guys are listening to it, because if not, I will have to improvise a little bit, but that's fine. So what happens on a pitch? So what is the anatomy of a pitch? Does a pitch, or what should have, right? And to me, this is a bit of, and this is not a template, by the way. People can use this as a template. It almost ticks every slide. To me, this is when you're telling a story, it needs to be able to have all these parts, right? So it needs to have a hook. So you need to get the audience at the beginning. Usually we have 10 to 15 seconds for the people to decide, do I want to listen to you or not? Then you need to explain what's the problem. So what are you trying to solve? What is the problem that is there that you want to solve, right? Then how are you going to solve it? Then if there is a problem and you want to solve it, how big is the problem? So how big is the market size? How are you going to make money? How do you plan to sell your product, your go-to-market? Have you sell it so far? Do you have any traction? Can you prove something that is going well? If it's a good market, there might be other people out there. So who are they and why are you different? Who is behind this idea? Who's the team? And what do you want from us to have been listening to you for about 2 minutes and 45 seconds? So these are the things that should be there. The problem with this is almost as I mentioned, it sounds like a template. So lately, I've been reading and thinking, is other ways to make it more interesting. And one of the ideas that I have developed is the following. And in a way, I would say it could be all of these plus the team and a couple more things. But basically, what's the hook still? But why now is the right time for your startup and your problem to be solved? So is there anything in terms of economical forces, in terms of social forces, in terms of technology, that is making right now the right moment for your company? And then what is that big idea? So what are you trying to do? So instead of going through for example, a lot of people is talking about COVID, right? Oh, because of COVID, education, online education, remote education is back in vogue. EdTech, so EdTech has not worked at all. It's been one of the biggest failures of investments. There has been so much money through it, and very few things have done. So because of COVID, all institutions, educational institutions, found out that they couldn't remotely serve their customers. Their teachers were not ready, their tools were not ready, and many ideas popping up. And maybe we can say, and this has created a number of behavioral changes in students. So now students have been exposed to Skype, to video conference, to not having to be with the teachers there, right? So this is something that made the why now extremely relevant for EdTech. And now we have a solution to allow teachers to remotely correct their homework and put in the solution that keeps being updated, shared, and learning can be there. So just to give you an idea, right? And this is how I will introduce a new EdTech solution in which right now there is a social forces and behavioral forces that have a stick to. I think this is much more relevant. And this also put the second part, which I think many of you fail, which is, what's the research behind telling me or proving that the problem is there? So by talking about the why now, you are showing the research about why right now, what's happening in the market makes the relevant moment to do it. So now let's try if we can get the pitch on. So let me do it directly from YouTube this time then to see if by any chance we can do it better. So let me try this. Then I will go to the broadcast to see if you actually are able to hear it. So here. Up. Let's try this. Go back. 6. Okay, good. Here, wait a second. Take this off. Do it with sound. Perfect. 15:06. And I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop where it starts and to just make sure that it's working. It's working. So let me.
pizza.
Ven aquí, corre. Okay, so I think you should all have. I'm trying to get my kid my pizza while I'm doing this with you. So let me go back to the presentation. Yeah, let me go back here. So let's talk about and usually I will ask about what do you think about the presentation. It will be interactive. So I will be dissecting their pitch a little bit through the example. But to me, what is important is several things come to my mind when I listen to Laimones, and I have done it a number of times, of course. One is he owns the stage, right? So the moment they get to the stage, you can feel that he's comfortable there. He's smiling, he's breathing nicely, right? So he owns the stage. He's talking calmly. Of course, he makes a couple of mistakes to the. It's actually quite this is you will what some of you will do it in the future. You will be in a big auditorium with 500, 600, 700 people. So it can be quite nervousness, right? So it can be there, but at the same time he feels comfortable. He's in the biggest stage. He wants to make it. He gets examples quickly of Amazon. I think gets people. Oh, Amazon. What is he talking about? Amazon. Gets people interested. He makes the point across. His pitches are very traction-based, so they done very well. And I will give you some numbers that they keep doing really well. So in a way, he's basically using the numbers as the driving force of the pitch. Some of you, most of you, won't have the traction and have to be driving a much more either personal story or much more vision-oriented story, and that's where we're going to talk about it. But the important part is any powerful pitch. You have 15 seconds to get people attention. Even the jury tomorrow, even the jury anytime, they've been listening to one pitch, to 20 pitches, to 40 pitches this afternoon. It's, oh my God, yet another pitch there. So you need to get their attention very quickly. You cannot wait until you're talking about your traction at the end to get them because they might have lost. You need to get their attention. So how do you get people attention? How do you hook people? Context, and I will show you an example. The typical rhetorical question, which I will advise most of you never to use right now when you are an interactive online. So I think when you are in a room with people, people can raise their hands. You can use them. It might work, but starting with a rhetorical question might be difficult. Controversial statement might be more powerful, but you have to make it. You know how to make it. Share your vision, starting with a big why. And the most powerful one that always works is tell a story that is personal. And I will explain why, because since we are kids, since we are basically little babies, our parents, our grandparents tell us stories. So our brain has been trained to listen to stories. So every time somebody starts telling a personal story, our attention goes there. We train for that in a way, right? So this is why I think personal stories are very, very, very compelling. So in the case of City, they go very much, again, statement-based, right? 1 out of 4 people abandons the shopping cart. So it's very strong, 25%. And he uses 1 out of 4 customers on the shopping cart. So in a way, I want to know, I didn't even know that fact first. So it's informative. And wow, that's interesting. And same-day delivery is not available, but same-day delivery is all available. It's Amazon, right? So in a way, it gets you interesting. I want to listen to more. What is it clear? By the way, yes, notice something else during the presentation, that it is extremely clean, right? So very simple design, big letters, not too much text. So key message here is that the presentation is supporting you. It's not doing the work for you. So the visuals of the presentations need to be clean, simple, well-designed, they are supporting you. It's different from the presentation you might send afterwards. Okay, so people is there to listen to your voice, to your story, not to be reading the slides. This is another example. This is what's interesting. This is a Turkish company. It's actually a cybersecurity company. And you know, cybersecurity, 90% of the audience will actually fall to sleep or understand nothing when talking about cybersecurity. So the way Pinar got people interested was talking about a story about Titanic and explaining a problem that happened with Titanic and making the connection of that problem that happened in Titanic, which was basically happened 3 years ago, which was lack of tools and false positives, which was the same problems that we have 100 years from now with cybersecurity, right? And that way, you say, oh, wow, why are we talking about cybersecurity? Titanic, so he made something very interesting. He captured the audience attention from day one, right? Matthew goes for the personal story. It was very powerful. I will say there is nobody who will not listen to this when he's telling the story about, you know, he saw 2 people dying on the first day at work, and he wanted to make this prevented. He wanted to prevent this. But the problem with this one, in the Matthew's case, was that he's this kind of almost sad demeanor guy. Dark suit, very serious, dark glasses. So he started killing people on the first slide, and we never got away from almost crying during the entire pitch, right? So in fact, we told him to change it because it was just setting a too somber tone and never managed. But from the point of view of hooking, this was actually very powerful. So start there, or start with personal. Once you hook people, then you talk about you. Because many people start, hi, my name is Doglu, it's in Power. I'm the co-founder of the project. I don't know what you call the project. And we are not paying attention, right? So I will always advise that first you hook people. And after that short intro in which you get people attention, you said, hi, my name is Cristobal Alonso. I'm the CEO of Founder Startup Wise Guys. We're here to make founders entrepreneurs and help them deliver great international companies, great direct tech companies, which is our mission, right? So don't go there. Second discussion here is always that most people will not understand your name in an international context. If you're just in Turkey, probably they do, but they won't remember it and they won't write it down. They will only do it at the end if you're good enough, and I will show you a couple of examples, right? So to me, almost this is just a polite way to start. But to me, this is not information that will be retained yet by the people. Okay, so don't spend too much time on this part. And sometimes if you've been introduced like, and now Doglu is going to, the CEO of this company is going to introduce his company, then you have already been introduced. Then the only thing you need to say is hi after you hook people. So you hook people, and then you introduce yourself or the company or the startup. In this case, for example, we do radically faster deliveries for business, right? And again, you define your company in 4 words, in 5 words, something that can be. And there are people that is trying to have this company one-liner that is like 20 words. So you almost need to memorize and go in front of the mirror and try. Simple things. Your mom needs to understand what you do. Your dad needs to understand what you do. Write things simple, making them clear. Don't make them too elaborate. Don't try to be too sophisticated when talking about your company. In this case, for example, some examples, Robot is tax compliance platform for e-commerce companies. Not sexy, but I think most people will understand compliance. That one might be the difficult word there, and these are the co-founders. Or Beats, another female founder, Janica Beats. We save employees' lives. So clear. This has also another advantage. It's like most of the time when you get questions, when you're asking, when you're closing, if you leave these bigger slides behind you, people remember. This is something very simple. I will remember Beats. I will remember you saving employees' lives, right? I would write down, that's the CEO from Beats. Yeah, I remember those guys. Yeah. Right? So it's working on the memorability of what you're trying to do. Now we have to say, why is your product needed, right? My experience tells me that many of you talks about the problem from a personal perspective. So you feel, when you ask, when people ask you, you feel, you know, no, problems are because there is a very clear market research. You have interviewed potential customers. You have interviewed people. So every time we talk about the problem, first, try to relate the problem to your audience. Secondly, prove the problem. The more proof you have, the least I'm going to question the problem exists. One of the key, I will say, challenges that you're going to face on the initial 6 to 12 months is people trying to make sure that does the problem really exist? Or you just want to make a product that you're looking for a problem to solve, but you already have the solution that you want to build, right? So try to make sure that the problem is, yeah, there is a problem. Now let's see if they just can solve it, and if who else is solving it, and if they can win. But yes, I believe there is a problem. In this case, in the case of City, the problem is that 80% of e-shops in Europe cannot offer same-day delivery. And this is actually almost impacting because, again, everybody thinking like, hey, the world is dominated by Amazon. They do Amazon Prime, problem solved. And then you realize that 80% of e-shops in Europe cannot offer. And remember, if you don't offer, 25% of people abandons your shopping cart. Then the problem, as you like to always call this problem, is huge, massive, right? And in every statement he's making, he's using numbers to prove it. This was it's a very number transaction-centric pitch. But there is no doubt when you read these numbers. Instead of saying, for e-shops, it's a huge problem not to offer same-day delivery. He could have done that. He would have no credibility, right? By throwing the 1 out of 4 and the 80% of e-shops, people say, yes, there is a problem, and it seems to be a big problem, and clearly it seems to be proven. Are they going to solve it? In this case, you know, Greg is the CEO of online gaming. They spend 5,000 euros every quarter with tax processing. Why? Because he needs to face 57 different tax regimes that he's liable when selling his ebooks or his dating services or the movie services, etc. Right? So it's clear. This quantify the problem for an individual owner, quantify the complexity being 57 different tax regimes. So you clearly say yes. So simple ways, quantifiable ways, there is a problem. And this creates huge headaches. So how can we help Greg get rid of his headache, right? His tax-oriented headaches, right? Then we try to talk about the solution, right? And again, if you look at the right side, I love the solution when he's trying to talk about the solution from a benefit point of view. When I'm in juries, when I'm supporting my startups, I always have to say, is there a way in which you can quantify the benefits of using your solution? Oh, they're going to have huge time savings. Okay. How much? Which percentage? How can you prove it? Any test? How much does the time cost for this particular company? So out of a sentence of 5 words, I challenge 6 times almost, right? So always, and maybe you still don't know, but say, okay, you know, we expect time to be saved by using our app. It has to be more than 20% to bring enough value with the cost. And we're in the process to do this one. Our competitors are achieving A, B, and C, for example. So there is many ways to prove the benefits. In this case, Lyman says, companies use City. In 42 minutes, the packets are delivered. And I don't know if you remember that he puts huge emphasis in this slide because he does 2 tricks for retention. Repetition, emphasis, and pauses, right? So he says, companies use City deliver in 42 minutes. 42 minutes. That's faster than Amazon Prime, ladies and gentlemen, right? So he emphasizes, he pauses, and he repeats. And I almost certain that 100% of people who will listen to the pitch, if you ask them 3 things to remember, they will say 42 minutes, faster than Amazon Prime. This is sticking in her, right? One more thing I want you to notice on this slide. He's telling you the product is live, it's working. It's using screens, maps. If you will look a bit closer, it could all be bullshit, right? E-commerce app is not their app, it's somebody else's app. Self-service for SMEs. This could be, for all I know, an Uber screenshot. Enterprise-grade API. I don't know how many of you guys can zoom on this, but from the audience, from the difference, this could almost say, if mommy goes to shop, deliver the package later. And you will say that is an enterprise-grade API, right? So, of course, in this case, the product is live, but constantly when you're pitching, try to use screenshots of your product. Try to constantly put in people's head, you are launching, it's live, you're moving forward, you're not testing things, you're moving forward, the product is there, right? Convince them. There is no doubts at the end of the 3 minutes that you're going to do it, that the product is live, that they can use it, they can test it. And many of them might even download it while you're talking and start using it, which is fantastic. That's exactly what you want. In the case of Flowbats, it's one-stop shop back calculation. Again, they don't so skip, but they talk about integrated API, VAT rate calculations, preparing tax returns, and VAT payments to tax authorities. Okay, what you do is clear. And, hey, we quantify the benefits. It says from 1 week of Greg to 5 minutes, saving 70% of tax compliant costs. How do you know 70%? Probably you don't know. Probably it can be challenged. But the moment you put a number there, it means that you are actually quantifying it. You're putting the measurements. You know what you're after. You know how to sell it to your customers. Okay? This is also very important. Let me go back to the main screen to see if any of you guys have any questions for the time being. Audience, I will wait. Live comments, no live comments. So guys, please, if you have comments, I will be every 3-4 slides going back here and try to address them. I know my presentation by heart. I do it all the time. So this is for you. So I love to get your comments and make it more interactive. But if not, I keep going. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation. Good. So you have hooked the people, you get their attention. You have proven there is a problem, and it seems that you have a solution. So the next thing to talk about is about the market. What most of you do with the market. There is a huge market. It's worth billions of euros. You put some kind of random graph from the US or from China, etc., and that's it, right? Well, I don't give a damn about the global market, about the billions. I want to know is, what is your market? Do you understand how many customers are in your market? Do you understand how many markets you can capture in your market, right? And I'm going to show you some examples here. So I don't want you to work with the graph and present the graph. But I want you to understand that we need to understand what is the global market, and this is the billions, etc. Nobody cares about this. But what I care is about which segment can you really attack in the geographies within your reach. So if you're starting in Turkey and you're going afterwards to Germany, so within Germany and Turkey, our total market is about 10% of the total. And that's what we're trying to go initially after. Okay. And then what is the one that you're going to obtain, ideally within the next 18 months, 24 months? So what are you really after? So it allows me to know, for example, that in the next, once I understand this one, understand your business model, I know how much money you aim to make in the first 18 to 24 months. And I can kind of start thinking if it's true. I really advise you to do bottom up, not top down. So not these billions, but talk about number of customers. So if you're going to be helping schools, said, hey, in the EU, there is 91,000 schools. 21,000 of them are private, which is our primary target because of the early adopters. It's very difficult to enter public schools. Out of 21,000, we're talking about the ones that are international, which is 50% of those. Out of those 10,000, there is 3,000 between Germany and Turkey. I think we can capture 15% of that market within 18 months. That will make about 400 to 500 schools that will be using our product to start with. That's how you start talking about markets. That's how you define market. That's how you make people believe to understand your market. Okay. One of the things that I think the line managers does well on their pitch is, there is this billions on the left side. He never talks about the billions. He just leaves you that there in case somebody wants to be a smart ass. But he's focusing about telling you how much money can you make in the markets they're attacking. And by the way, he covers with this one also the go-to-market. So it's like, we're today in billions. We just opened in Tallinn. We're going to go after with Riga. We can make more than 30,000 MRR in those markets. And then we're going to Poland, a country with 10 cities, I think it was 8 or 10 cities, with more than 100,000. So he's sizing his addressable, obtainable market in the coming 18 months, while telling you the market is very big, so don't worry about it. The whole thing is, can we execute? Right? For example, so I hate these ones. This is what how many of you, this is shit, okay? But, okay, seven. This is how you should do it, for example. So this is Cost Pocket. This is a company working on doing expense management for companies. So in this case, say there is 22,000 medium and large companies in our target markets, which is Baltics and Scandinavia. We believe we can conquer 10% of those. That's around 2,200 customers, making our market, addressable market within the next 2 years of a 25 million revenues. Well, that's clear. I don't know if it's real. The numbers don't seem excessive. It looks quite enough. It looks like you have done your exercise. This is something I've done with a Slovakian company lately. They're doing AI solutions for predictive analytics for sales, right? And they were talking about the billions and the billions. I thought, no. Let's talk about how many SMEs are in your market. So they managed to go about the 600,000, 300,000. Then they tell you how they're going to capture them and what is the potential ARR in the market. So this tells me that you understand the market. You have sizes. You have some level of understanding of the business to enter. How do you make money? I don't give a damn if you're impact or you're not impact. Companies need to know how they make money. And you don't make money by fundraising. You make money by charging your customers more than what your product costs. So we all understand that it might take time. We all understand that initially your cost might be produced as a higher cost until you get a scale. But you need to understand how do you make money and how you become profitable. And if this was always or should have been always a must, now in this current market situation, it's even more important. So grants, funding, those are ways to get the initial cash to build your product. But you need to know how you're going to make money and how you're going to make cash out of this money, right? So keep it simple. In the case of City, I actually think it's too complex. I will not even put the number of deliveries. Say we have 3 packages, depending on the number of deliveries, 299, 980, 2688. By the way, 2 things here for your attention. One, when you put these numbers, and people is not going to start assuming how many of the big one you do versus the small one, because normally everybody will start with a small package. But if I see this, wow, if you can make out of one customer about almost, 30,000 euros a year, if these guys get 20 large customers, they can be a very large profitable company very quickly. So you're proving that this is a market with a lot of money. The second part, he always uses this on his speech constantly. There's a lot of psychological pain. 299, 2688, 980, right? So he's not using round numbers. He's not using, our prices. He will say our prices are 300, 1,000, and 2,500. No, by using those numbers, people, they're thinking, wow, they're calculating this based on something very, very specific. Maybe it's cost, maybe it's profitability, but they have very good pricing model, very steady pricing model, right? So you're always playing with people, brains, about numbers. So pricing is very important for this one. This is one in the supermarkets, nothing is cost 10, it costs 9.99. So in your brain, it costs 9 or below 10, right? Even if it's 1 cent different, right? So always play with that one. Actually, Turkish lira, as the number gets even bigger, you can even play better with this. In the case of Lovat, so it's free, it's 500, or it's 1,000. Okay, so example, I think they should do 499, I think they should do 1,100. I will stick more, but 3 clear plans, and they're based on transactions. Okay. Then we get into the traction. This is how most companies try to do, right? And I'm making a presentation. No, wait. So there is actually in the traction, everybody believes you can get the first clients, but do anybody believe, or will anybody believe, you can get to the traversing the gap right there? And that's about your go-to market. So for that to understand, if you have initial traction and you have initial growth, as City does, it's very simple, right? We have grown, from 1.4 to almost 6. We project to do 60. People will do the math. I said, it looks like these guys can execute. This is more difficult when you have nothing, right? And you have to make an effort to explain to people how you're going to reach that hockey stick. Why are you going to do it? And one of the key things there is when we talk about competition. I don't know how much you notice in this slide on where it goes on the left side of the slide. So, he does a very good job of presenting all these logos. But if you look at the left side, none of these guys are their clients. They were onboarding them, planning them, plan them, right? Of course, you have to be careful and make sure that all this is real, that if any of these customers is on the audience, they will not look at this as, what is this, right? But this was a very smart way to prove to people you have traction, even if almost none of them are the customers, right? So again, when you don't have traction, there is many ways. We're doing pilots. We have very positive feedback on our product from these 3 brands. We have talked to these 19 people. So there is many ways to talk about traction. That is not just revenue when you're in a very early stage. And then we have the competition. And there is 2 things that people does terrible these days on competition. You see on the left side, right? You have a product, you have an event launch, you're actually almost in a hackathon, but your product is already better than Google, right? Or whoever is in your competition there, right? The second one is very fashionable lately. People put this axis with 2 major things, and you're always on the top right. So people there who has lots of money, customers, is in the market for years, is there, but you're the best, right? So don't do any of this. I think what we need to understand from the differentiation and the competition is what makes you different, or what can make you different. Do you understand who are your competitors? Are you competing in a niche in which there is not somebody who is already making billions, which you're never going to be able to destroy, right? So we call this categorization, right? So are you in a category and you can become the king by any chance, right? And in a way, it's the whole idea about when you go into a market in which there is many, many competitors, you're in a red ocean. It's an existing market. You need to beat the competition. It's extremely expensive. It's very difficult to do it. But if you create a space, a new market creation, a new category, because there's something happening in the market that is new, that's an open space. And for sure, there might still be 2 or 3 startups like you competing for that space. But you can try to convince us, the jury, the people, that you have a couple of things that make you different and can differentiate your product. So stop putting these arrows, these sticks. Stop comparing yourself in axis with 1,900 people. Find a category that is yours. Find 2 people that really compete with you and try to be convincing us that you have 1, 2, 3 things max that really make you different. So this is how Slack did it, right? So super complicated, but still in a way put in the middle. By the way, if any of you does this, again, don't try to explain me the entire slide. Say, like in the case of Slack, we try to be very different from Dropbox on the online file sharing because blah, 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 blah. And for sure, different than the task management like Trello, who were trying to do this one. And then you move into the next slide. So you saw the audience, you have done a lot of research, but you saw you give a couple of names to explain differentiation and how you position yourself. This is a competitive landscape from Half ID, which is cybersecurity, trying to play the same way. In a way, trying to identify 3 areas in which they might want to create a new category by putting them together. And probably he talks about 2 of them to tell you how they're different. There's also a way to at least graphically and trying to so that you understand the market well and you understand who you compete with. And this, you can also go in a super much simpler way. This is SciEx, one of our companies, who says, hey, we want to be in the middle between the old lecture style and the tools that cyber experts needs. So we are there to provide this type of training methods. Okay, simple, doesn't give detail, but at least it tries to explain a little bit what you do and who can you be competing. So 2 tutorial experts and all lecture-based solutions. And if you have something very unique, it might work out. Let me try to go to the chat again. Any questions? Hopefully you guys are not falling to sleep. Just very, very entertained by my voice and my accent and understanding 10% of what I'm saying. So, okay, so keep going. Again, if there is any questions there, please throw them out. We have about another 10 minutes before finishing. So let's go out about the 2 last parts, or 3 parts. The first one is about the team. Probably most of you have heard that early stage startups, we invest on the team. The team is what really matters. This is the most important thing. However, when you go about the team, you start, yeah, Amy, graduated from university, she has worked in 5 different companies. Of course, we have also a CTO. Of course, we have also CEO and these type of things, right? So when you talk about the team, tell us something that is special. So you're in logistics. Tell us how you, even being young guys, you have logistics expertise. Tell us that you have been working together for 4 years in different projects and you work really as an amazing teams. Give us something that we can remember that is different, right? And at this point, the picture. Always take a good picture. I hate these slides with your pictures one-to-one in little circles with the titles below that nobody remembers, that the pictures are terrible. Invest on getting a photographer to give you guys a good picture, or make a fun picture of all of you in Zoom together. This will be way more memorable than anything you can do, right? So this is say, hey, we have 3 logistics geeks, right? Well, if you look at the LinkedIn profiles, there was nothing logistics about what they're doing, but they try to position themselves there. You look at the pictures, say, well, they look like nice guys. They clearly look together. By the way, the guys on the right and in the middle, they're actually brothers, which most of you didn't know. And then you also maximize that people is trusting us like wise guys, like an investor in Uber and Instacart, so they're using their logos to give credibility. In this case, again, I hate the round picture, especially because the CTO is terrible picture. It's almost cut it out. But at least they try to work a lot on the 8. They are in the tax, 15 years tax compliance, 7 years tax compliance. Okay, they seem to know something, and they have some people in the tech and marketing. Okay, this one is an amazing picture. This is a team that does volunteer management. Right? So when I look at this picture, I understand they're into volunteer management. I like this team. It's a fun team. I want to work with them. Yes, the person of happiness. Yes, the CEO, the CTO, right? So invest on a picture that I will remember this picture. I will remember this team. I want to talk to this team afterwards, right? So do these things that make your team memorable. Again, this is the Hungarian guys, right? I will remember this fun picture of the guys, right? It could be super boring cybersecurity. Look at this picture. This is sort of like a team I would like to work with, right? Okay, you made the point. That's all you want to do. And then they ask. And many of you say, oh, but, first you start asking, you ask for something crazy, like you start asking for no product, we want to have $500,000. But regardless of asking for funding or not, if you're a startup and you're not asking for something, you're not a startup. So you always need something. You might need feedback. You might need advice. You might need introductions. You might need to raise money. You're looking for a co-founder. Ask for it. There is nobody here in the audience. You never know. I have these guys who they were working mostly on the crypto space in one of our batches, and the CEO was this smart batch. Said, I don't need to pitch in front of these guys. I know exactly where I have to go to find my things. He said, okay, well, you're so smart. I don't have a gun to force you, right? But the CTO came and said, you know what? I want to pitch. I said, oh, perfect, no problem. So two or three events later, he pitched. And there was a guy in the audience who raised his hand and said, by the way, I know the CEO of the biggest wallet these days in North America, South America. Happy to do an intro. These guys became their customer. And I went to the CEO and said, never underestimate audience and asking for something. And you never know who's in the audience. You know who's in the audience and know someone in the audience They just saw your team picture, really like your pitch. I want to help these guys. Everybody wants to help. I want to help these guys. Let me do an intro. In this case, they ask for that. When you ask for money, you need to ask, what are you going to achieve with this money? So in their case, they want 250K to reach 51K MRR in 18 months. The fun part of it, in this case, Global wanted 200K to expand into the European market, okay? So, by the way, fun part here is they actually raised 300K after this one. They have reached more than 75K MRR. They just raised another 1.6 million. So these guys are like going like crazy. So hey, things happen when you do well. And then one final trick that I ask the teams. So I always ask them to have this slide. And you don't even need to show this slide. But this slide allows you two things. First, every time you practice with your colleagues, with somebody, ask them, hey, what did you remember about the pitch? So always try to say, do they remember the three things that you want them to remember? And if not, what can you do? Can you be more clear? Can you use techniques? Can you repeat more? So this is a kind of a check, right? The second one is, especially at the beginning, when you're still not an expert in your products, this is your backup. So you get super nervous, or the lights goes off, or something happens. You can always say, let's go to the last slide. Click on, and you always have in most of the clickers, you can go to the end. Sorry about the lights, the inconvenience. I was very nervous. Let me just remind you things. We're an amazing team in logistics. We've been growing more than 50% the last 6 months, and love to raise some money for it. We are here to revolutionize the logistics for SMBs in Europe. Thank you. So it gives you this backup to close, right? And again, this one is almost, you never saw it. It's just there, but it gives you something that almost will make you more secure that no matter what happens, and then you will deliver some type of message that is clear and that is proven. So summary, I leave it of what you should be covering. But again, remember, this is not a template. You need to cover these things through a story. The more you're telling a story that covers these things, the more powerful it becomes. Last piece of advice, always pitch for 2 minutes and then almost slow down your voice, breathe, smile, take times, because many of you will try to almost pitch for 3 minutes, will almost be with the clock to finish at 2 minutes, 58 seconds, and then nothing goes as you planned, because you're more nervous, because you start blah, 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 because you go longer, because there's a problem. So if you prepare something between 2 minutes, 2 minutes 20 to tell your story, then you have opportunities to go slowly, smile, engage, etc. And don't read. One of the things I have seen doing online a lot is because people say, they're just looking at my face. They have in front of them the script and they're reading. When you are reading, we know your voice is different. You don't emphasize the same way. You're not an actor. You were an actor, maybe you will be able to read the script properly, right? But you're not. So don't read. Pitch normal. Click on the slides. Make it a rhythm. Practice to be real, to be a real pitch. You will be much better than just memorizing and reading an scripted pitch. Yeah, so, yeah, a couple of things here is very important. Not for tomorrow, but in general, always have 2 people in your team that know the pitch. A lot of companies only because of the English or because of the positions, they only have the CEO or the sales guy. And then day before a big presentation, imagine the CEO gets sick. Or there is 2 events happening at the same time. Or there is a big sales meeting and a pitch. When you have 2 people doing it, you can always cover this. Second one, the 2 people might have different ways to tell the stories. And that is very powerful because they can give feedback to each other. You can see how they, but actually he pitches our team really, really well. I want to take some of that, right? So that also helps each other in a way, combine different, basically, strategies. Different slide decks for pitching that you send. Minimize the amount of information when you're pitching. Then send something bigger when you're sending. Always be ready to adjust the situations. Always be ready to pitch. And every time somebody asks for volunteers, volunteer, pitch. Pitching is our practice. The more you practice, the more feedback, the more comfortable, the better you will get. And then at 10 years, hard work, will look like an overnight success and that you're the most charismatic pitching person, even if you were terrible and you suffer and you struggle and you have practiced a million times until you get here. So if you want actually to have fun, I think I'm probably sending the slides to slide afterwards. You can see this guy. This guy was pitching, and this is a very good example. In 2018, Simon, it was a 3-minute speech. I think he took like about 5 minutes, something like that. It was terrible. I had no idea what the hell the guy was talking on. Fast forward 1 year later, he went to our program. He won the competition against CDC. So this tells you that, you know, it's all about practice. It's all about developing a story. And he had no traction. He was just setting a big vision in the future, and he did it really, really, really well. So questions, you have my emails. I will go back now, stop sharing, go back to the main screen. And here, Eli, are you coming back into the show, or you're leaving me here alone? Any questions? Been live for 1 hour and 11 minutes. It is down. We can end. Okay, good. So you have the resources available. You have my email, very simple. You see there, elpatron@startupwise, guys. I'm always available, happy to help. Good luck tomorrow. Have fun. Remember that it's better to sleep 1 hour than to practice another 2 times. So try to sleep a little bit at some point if you're doing the classic big effort. Good luck, and remember one thing, have fun. If it's not fun, it's not worth it. So see you. Hope it was helpful. Any comments, welcome. Any questions? Ciao. Good night.